to Hotel Moments. Today's guest, we have Rob Smith, who is the EVP of Full Service and Resorts for Aimbridge Hospitality. Thank you for joining us today, Rob.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer.
I'm really excited to talk to you today. Like I said, I on the call earlier. I've been seeing you a lot lately, so thank you again for making the time. The first thing that I would love to do right now is to talk about you. I did a little research. I looked into you a little bit, and you're a lifelong hotelier. How did you get into hospitality?
I went to school for accounting, and I was a waiter in college, and just fell in love with the hospitality side. And first went in through accounting and in hotels, but soon found that I was not a desk jockey, and I moved over back to the operations side and haven't looked back. So I been at it really right even before I started school.
That's great. And I also saw that you moved from Aruba. You had a lot of your experience in Aruba, and now you're in Texas. So how did that happen?
Yeah, I was a GM in the States for a while and had the opportunity to move out to the Caribbean, and started in Jamaica and St. Thomas and St. Croix and Puerto Rico, but really found my home in Aruba. I spent more than 16 years there. I met my wife there, had 4 children, and really had a great time. I ran 2 big box resorts and casinos, as well as served as a tourism official for the island for about 4 years. So great time spent. Was very sad. It's my second home, as always, but having to continue to grow, joined Aimbridge here back in Texas in 2012.
Well, how would you say it differs? I mean, besides the obvious, working at Aruba and then working back over, stateside.
Well, the great thing is part of my job, I'm over Caribbean resorts for the company. So I get to go to all the great places. We manage an asset.
Nice.
We manage the Marriott in Curacao. So I'm all over the Caribbean on a regular basis. I get back to Aruba quite a bit. My wife still has family there. So it was an adjustment to move back to the States, and we miss Aruba dearly. But from a career perspective, it was a great thing to do.
One of my favorite questions to ask on this show is, what is your favorite story from hospitality? And you having so much experience, I have to ask you specifically, what would be your favorite story, either on property or company-wide? What would be your favorite hospitality story?
Oh God, I have a zillion hospitality stories, most of which I cannot tell. But I ran the Jupiter Beach Hilton for a time early in my career. And across the street was the Burt Reynolds Theater. And Burt Reynolds was in the hotel all the time with all different celebrity friends of his. And it was just a great time for me to meet and interact on a, one-on-one friends and family basis with just some really cool people. And I'll always remember it.
That's great. Did your team, did the hotel team, they knew who he was? They were equally excited? Or they
absolutely. Yeah, he owned the Burt Reynolds Theater across the street. So he not only was utilizing the hotel on a regular basis, but everybody that he brought in for the theater would stay at the hotel. So it was like a big family, and he was a wonderful human being. So that's one of the great things about hospitality, is it opens so many doors for you to travel all over the world and meet just great, wonderful people.
Yeah, I checked in Eddie Money to a Hampton Inn I worked at one time, and the front desk had absolutely zero clue of who Eddie Money was. Even after I told them, I was like, "Take me home tonight? 2 tickets to paradise? Like, how do you guys not know about this?" No, they didn't have a clue. So that's why I had to ask that question, because even though you have a theater across the street, sometimes these things happen. So I had to ask you that question. So thank you for that. So when I think of Aimbridge, I think of positivity and I think of growth. And I mean, this past year, hospitality has obviously suffered, but it seems like you guys, there's nothing stopping you. So I see you guys growing in hotels and in hiring. How are you able to keep doing this? What's your secret?
Well, I'll tell you one of the things. We made a decision early on in the pandemic, while many of our competitors and the brands were making the painful decision to lay folks off, that as a company, we were going to hold on to our operations staff and not let go of anyone, because we knew that our owners and our property staff were going to need the support, regardless of the reduced occupancies and the loss of business. And it's really paid off for us. It wasn't our intention, but because we've been there during a hard time, our owners respected that. They loved it. And we've grown because other hotels have paid notice, and they want us to manage their property. So during the pandemic period, we've added about 450 hotels to our pipeline. So the growth has just it's been amazing, like you said,
Yeah.
and exciting. But we're more excited about the fact that we're now bringing back our staffs in the properties as business levels return, and we're starting to see, light at the end of this pandemic.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always been curious about is that many hotel companies have cut most of their operations staff. So they're running completely skeleton crews right now. Occupancy is going to come back, but I have to imagine, I'm guessing that it's going to come back in bursts. How are they going to prepare for something like that? You bring back staff, what, for just a short period of time until it's slow again? But it looks like you guys have thought kind of further down the line on that.
Well, and when I talk about operations staff, I'm talking about our corporate support of the properties.
Okay.
At the properties, we've really leaned on our managers. I mean, I respect them more than ever because they're wearing all kinds of hats to make sure that we keep the lights on during the low periods of occupancy. One of the exciting stories about the field is during the pandemic, a lot of the older workforce within our properties made life decisions, went into other forms of work, whether it's public sector work, or they made career changes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our millennials see it as a positive. When I'm out in the field, they're saying, I thought it was going to be years till I saw jobs open that I could grow into, and now I see all this opportunity, and just how fresh that is to walk in and see excitement about as the business comes back. A lot of young people wanting to join our industry and wanting to be a part of our company and part of the guest experience. So it's been exciting for me to see some real energy about things coming back.
Yeah, I've been hearing something similar. People looking as this as an opportunity of growth. I guess it's the kind of the silver lining, having all of these new positions. And yes, lots of people got furloughed during this time, but now is the chance for them to really take their career to the next level. So again, that's why I love seeing that you guys are still hiring and still growing. That has been amazing. What do you think has been your biggest lesson through all of this?
I'm a glass half full guy, and I see that there was a real silver lining to this, that people during the pandemic learned to appreciate each other more, learn to lean on each other more, learn to accept help from others where they wouldn't in the past. And I think the guest is being appreciated more than ever because our hotel saw a time period when we didn't have them. And sometimes you have to be reminded about, the good things in life. So I think that, the whole hospitality industry will have a real resurgence and rebirth as our business comes back. And it's just exciting.
Yeah. So question for you. I know that Aimbridge largely has branded hotels, but you also have a number of independent properties as well. How do you think that this is differing, affecting them differently with brands versus independents?
Unfortunately, the pandemic really had everybody suffering as business travel and leisure travel was down. And it really is a market specific question. The brands weathered the storm a little bit better because they had the customer base, and usually the independents do better when there is a concentration of business in the market and compressions created. But really, it's all really market to market to answer that question.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that definitely makes sense.
What I can tell you, Jennifer, is the types of businesses change. Like our drive markets that have demands, like our coastal properties in Texas, or in our coastal properties on the West Coast. They've been running unusually high occupancies, especially in the summer period and on the weekends, because people want to get out of their homes. They feel they can socially distance in a hotel environment. In many cases, they're moving into coastal properties because they're working from home and they'd rather have a balcony with an ocean view. So, we're seeing a lot of different reasons and demand generators that we didn't see pre-pandemic, but so those assets have been thriving during these time periods.
Yeah, yes, I've also been hearing that as well. So, with the drive markets, everyone's kind of working remote right now, and kids are learning remote right now. So, the availability to work anywhere has definitely increased. How do you think, like outside of the drive markets, how are they holding up? Like, how are they surviving?
Well, we're tracking that very closely, and with 1,600 hotels, we certainly have a data point that I think we can trust across the U.S. And as the pandemic started opening up in June or July, we saw properties across the company getting back into the mid 40s to 50% occupancies,
Mhm.
mostly concentrated on the weekend or long weekends. Midweek was hurting. We continually approved up until about October. And then we saw a little bit of a blip in November and December where we got back in the 30%. A lot of it had to do with market specific lockdowns as there was a resurgence. But we're seeing it again in January. Business grew in the month for the month from our forecast perspective. February, we're running in the mid 40s. And in March, we're looking like we're going to knock on the door of 50%, which, 2 years ago, I would have cringed at.
Right.
But today, I'm very excited to hear about a 50% month, and especially in the leisure destinations. We run a few beautiful properties that we run the Grand Reserve Hyatt in Puerto Rico,
It's
and
beautiful.
it's a beautiful property. And transient bookings the last 3 weeks have been on fire. So people want to get out, and they're as they get some confidence that the numbers are going down and vaccines are going up. I
Right.
think I think we're going to see a huge surge in business.
I agree. And I keep hearing this rumor that it's going to be 30% increase over last year, which won't put us at the 2019 occupancy numbers. But I really think that everyone's been pent up so much, like so long, that there's going to be this just a huge surge as soon as people feel safe. So I
Yeah.
hope that that's an
I'll tell you, for
understanding.
2021, Jennifer, I don't even look at it as a year. I look at it as in quarters. The first
Yeah.
quarter, we're still in lockdown in many cases, and we're going to run poor occupancies and not get back to 19. Is there a chance by the fourth quarter we get back to 19? I don't think we're going to get there yet, but I think we're going to get within a good margin. But I think that we're already seeing group bookings in early 22. And I think by 23 we'll be back and be ahead of 19. So, if you look at the past in 1918, when the last major pandemic, right afterwards we had the Roaring 20s.
Yeah.
So, we're hoping that the pent up demand creates that kind of atmosphere.
I love your positivity, and I think that you're right. And I think that explains the growth, right? So, where else are you guys looking to expand to? Like, where are you guys focused on growth now?
Well, we'd love to grow more in the Caribbean. We have about 10 hotels in the pipeline that we hope to close here shortly. We've got a major announcement coming up in Mexico in the next few weeks, where it's an M&A deal, which is going to be a game changer for us and a platform for us to continue to grow through Latin America and increase our presence in the Caribbean. And we're not looking for growth just for growth's sake. We're
Of
looking to
course.
grow smart and the right way, and that's we think those exciting things are going to keep happening for Aimbridge.
Yeah, I think that you are definitely the industry leader, and I think that people look to you. So, yeah, that's amazing. If you had any advice out there for hoteliers or people who are struggling right now in the hotel space, what would that be?
Well, the advice I've been giving to our owners who have had a tough time, and my heart goes out to some of the investment struggles that we've all been through this year. But it's certainly all indicators, all data points, whether it's future group bookings or transient on the books, everything is pointing to recovery. So I think as long as the vaccines stay on schedule and we're able to keep this momentum going, I think it gives owners an opportunity for optimism. Also, during the pandemic, we've reset a lot of things on how we approach the properties in the market, and we're not gonna back those too quick. We're gonna make sure that our owners start to recover financially before we start getting back to the old operating model.
Yeah. Is there anything also when you're looking to open these hotels, is there anything new that you guys are trying to implement in these properties, like just based on the reactions from COVID and what the new type of guest is looking for? Any new policies or technologies or anything like that?
Well, I think when you're looking at that, you're looking at short and long term, and we certainly are looking for contactless touch points right now during COVID. I don't think the hotel business will ever go to contactless because we're a human business and
Right.
we're born in hospitality,
We're in the
and
business of hospitality. Exactly.
it just doesn't work when the humans aren't involved. Obviously, right now during this time period, we're not giving daily housekeeping service unless the guests want it, because for the most part, they want to know once they check in that no one else is in their room, and it
Right.
makes them feel safer and more secure. Well, we don't think that'll be forever, but for now, it's the right thing to do. We've had during this time period, we've added very robust marketplaces to our hotels, even our upscale properties. And the guests like the opportunity to go in and browse, and whether it's buy beer or wine or upscale prepackaged food. We learned from the restaurant industry that was doing it outside the hotel that they still want to eat out. They just want to take it
Yeah.
home or so we've got a very robust market now in all of our assets that's really been producing well. And I don't think that's going to change either. I think that the customer still is going to want that as an option going forward. So,
I
um,
agree. So the most hotels have taken away the breakfast and everything like that. Do your markets address that now? So like anything that the restaurants would have offered, is
yeah,
it now available in the market?
we as Aimbridge, we and most of the brands never took away breakfast. They just modified how it was offered.
Oh,
Early
nice.
on, yeah, early on it was offered as a takeaway bag, and had a piece of fruit and a small breakfast item. It's evolved now where it's still a takeaway, or they come and get it and sit somewhere in the lobby or the restaurant, and it's one hot item and cold items in a bag. Eventually, we'll get to I believe we'll get back to buffets, but they won't be serve yourself buffets. They'll be manned
Yeah.
served buffets that can be done in the safest way possible. But breakfast is a staple for a hotel stay. So I think breakfast is going to be back as soon as occupancies come back to a reasonable level.
I agree. And it's interesting that you mentioned that it's going to be, the buffets will be back, but it'll be manned. Do you think there's anything else like that that's going to change because of COVID? Do you think people are going to be not wanting that daily housekeeping service as often, or do you think that's going to go back? All of these little things that we've changed due to COVID, I'm wondering how many of them are going to stick.
Yeah. If you look at the non-hotel market, the Airbnb or condo rentals, they never have daily housekeeping service. They have it at checkout. The room gets cleaned for the next person. So I don't know if we want to get to that. It's less service. It's not what we do in full service, but
Right.
I think there'll be less contact points in the guest room going forward because people they just have a newfound privacy, if you will. So I don't think there'll be as much in-room service, but I don't think it's going to go the way of an Airbnb or something like that.
Right. And I think that's smart because
Especially
coming,
in our resorts. In
right.
our resorts, we have families, and mom has to clean at home or dad has to clean at home, and they don't want to do it when they're on vacation. So
Right.
we're going to go to daily service in our resort properties as soon as the customers allow us to.
People go to hotels for the experience too.
Exactly.
You want that hotel experience. You don't, otherwise you would go to a short-term rental. So
Exactly.
yes, and keeping the hospitality in there. As company-wide for Aimbridge, is there anything that you're communicating with the hotels right now to keep that guest experience, up and keeping the guest engaged? Because we do have less touch points now. So how are you kind of communicating that with the hotels?
Well, we've done several programs. We participated in the WELL program, which is a certification where they certify that the property has gone through all the proper safety and cleanliness guidelines. I'm not sure if you've seen recent media around that program, but that's been a big hit, and we've done that company wide. We're making sure we don't lose touch points. Most of our hotels, because of our staff having to wear masks, have created buttons or badges so that the guests can see their smile and see their face, because that's a big part of how we communicate non-verbally, right?
Yes.
And it's important that we've done training on voice and how your voice responds in a nonverbal manner during these time periods to make sure that we keep the touch points up. And although we're keeping things at a social distance, we're trying hard to make sure that there's a guest interaction in every guest experience, because the customers want it. When our business travelers travel, they're looking for a home experience away from home.
They
And
are.
they don't, they're doing it now, but they don't want to sit in their rooms. They want to, even if they're by themselves, they want communal dining. They want an area where they can be with others and work with others. And I think it'll come back soon, and robust once we get through the vaccine process.
I think that we are all in desperate need of it. I do. So that's fantastic. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? We're almost here at time. So I want to give you an opportunity if you want to add anything else.
Always willing and able to give an Aimbridge commercial. It's a company I love. And we talked earlier about being the largest. We are 1,600 hotels strong. And a lot of folks think that we're a select service company because we do run 1,300 select service properties. But at 300 full service hotels and resorts and luxury properties, we're by far probably 8 to 10 times the largest operator in that sector as well. So we're excited about growth, and we're excited about a consistent product, and we're excited about people coming back to work. So we hope that as things open up, we're also the employer of choice, and we get people coming to Aimbridge. So we're excited about it.
Rob, honestly, I mentioned this on our call earlier. I worked for Evolution, and being a part of Aimbridge, I can attest to the fact that you guys invest in people, and it's an amazing company to work for. It's a common misconception that the larger the company is, the less that they're focused on the individual person. And that is just not true for Aimbridge. So thank you so much for, providing that type of experience to your employees.
No,
I'm happy that I get to say that.
Thanks for having me on today. It's been fun.
You're very welcome. Everyone, remember that you can download any of these podcasts now on Spotify, iTunes, or on Google. We'll see you again next time. Thank you.